Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Welcome back again.
Yes, and Zeke's enjoying this. We had such busy days. We had 4 days that were just so jam-packed that we couldn't get out for a walk or do anything, and he was going stir crazy.
Oh, yes, and if I haven't gotten back to you with an appointment, please be patient. I will be back with you or shoot me another email.
Yes, definitely. So, I hear of a lot of people mentioning, heart irregularities and/or breathing problems, and it could be a sign of the times. It could be something else. As I've said before many times, we could be as compliant as possible in every single way. But how do we know it's really doing us all the good it's supposed to, if you guys know what I mean?
Well, we don't, because really all we know is what we're being fed, and that's all we really have to go by if you want to look at it at a scientific standpoint, just the 3D evidence in front of you, and they provide all of that.
Yeah, yeah. It's crazy times, and so there's all sorts of rumors going on right now. Um, rumors regarding many different people, including NP, who happens to be involved in the House and happens to be someone that speaks a lot, if you guys know
Mm-hmm.
what we mean. And so there's photographs circulating with a couple of escorts,
Mm-hmm.
um, also female, interestingly enough, sporting badges. So right away people are saying, there's the proof, it's underway. But do you guys remember when there was, oh gosh, a boot that was being worn by a former First Lady, HRC, if you guys know what I mean? And everybody said that was proof that it has begun.
Oh, it's absolute proof, and that's the disappointing part is that they just throw a little flash of something on the screen and say, "See, there you go." But I mean, from then until now, look how things have gotten.
Yeah, the one consistent thing is the increasing, and you can't even, I don't even know if you could put the numbers together anymore. 1984. I graduated a year before that, 1983. It's a great year. But yeah, everything is getting to be very, very 1984-ish to a higher degree. That's the one consistency we have, is that has just gone to a new higher level every single year, every single event.
Mm-hmm. That's right, and that's something that I think it's really important to note that things haven't changed no matter what somebody else is saying that's happened. Well, what has changed, you guys? What exactly has changed except for things getting stricter and stricter and tighter and tighter?
We all have hope, and it really, it can be crushing when the hope gets dashed time after time after time. The air taken out of our sails, so to speak. So now we're faced with, a big event coming up in just a handful of days, major event, and of course, everybody's got their hopes that finally, something will come through and we'll see some light on the horizon. This deflation that we have every time that we get our hopes up and then, the balloon gets popped, it leads to a lot of frustrations. And there's frustrations on the global scale, on that global stage that we're watching all across everywhere. People are waking up to disappointment after disappointment. Yet, if we took the geopolitical out, if we wiped that whole slate clean, if the leadership of this planet was not all these people that are in the leadership positions, and we could discover a new way of doing things, these would be the best of days. They really would be the best of days, guys, because you know what? We would be like, I'm sensing things I never sensed before. I feel really good if it wasn't for certain things that are constantly barraging us. Constantly, we are being exposed to certain things that are inhibiting that flow of energy. I think most of us at this point in time, as we're working through past traumatic events, working through our negative karma, working through all the issues that are locked away in our body, and that's part of traditional Chinese medicine, is that the emotions we can't deal with, they actually get stored at a physical point in the body, which ends up causing dis-ease and disease. That's what it is. So in this point in time, we're working through so many things. If we were left on our own, you know, to process these things, these would really actually be the best of times. And some of you guys out there are ignoring a lot of the geopolitical and maybe are not affected so much by the situation, the restrictions that are out there. And for you guys, you're like, well, I feel great. Everything's really wonderful. Chickens are doing good. The goats are doing good. We're away and not affected by all these frequencies. And life is wonderful for some people in these times.
Right, and I think that's an important point to make, that some people who are doing really, really well are not paying any attention to the geopolitical. But I guess the problem with that in lies that there's going to be certain things start coming up mandatory, and you're at least going to want to have your ears perked to what might be coming around the corner.
Most definitely, because, at some time there might be a knock on the door. And in certain times, the knock on the door is the most terrifying thing you can imagine, and it has been so in the past. In the 1930s, for instance, in the 1940s as well, in a certain Central European country, I should say, that knock on the door was terrifying, and it could be again. And so we have to be aware of everything that's going on at the same time, but not let the energies affect us. And boy, that takes a real sense of Buddhist detachment.
It does. It takes practice, and maybe that's not a bad thing to do, is practice with that Buddhist detachment with little things until that muscle gets stronger and stronger, like any other muscle in your body.
So everybody that we talk to when we have sessions, usually we'll recommend mantras, because mantras will, again, take you out of a certain zone, bring you into another zone. They're just constructed in that way. And we had one person today, and I forget who it was now. I think it was, it was a gentleman, I think, that is from a country close to that country that we were speaking about. And he was saying, he realizes that he's basically cursing things every time he speaks a word when it's in English. As we are well aware of, we've talked about this. When you look at English, it's so interesting to see how it's constructed. We have spelling, we have cursive, and of course we have his story. We have script. I mean, it's really, really, really telling in many senses. Good morning. Why would you ever wish anybody a good morning, period? Well, I guess you could, Sorry for your loss. Have a good morning, period. It's the words we use, and this world is dominated. It has been dominated by basically Western thought, and in many cases the use of the English language as well. And now all that's shifting further east as we speak.
It really is, and these are things that, gosh, really need to be at the forefront now on how to deal with things that are going to be coming at us, and where do we find our centralized power? Where do we find our control? How can we maintain control of our lives in this time when it just feels like everything is spinning out of control?
Yeah, it most definitely does. So rooting and grounding and listening to the guides, clearing ourselves out. Again, Cindy was talking about getting off of sugars. Mostly we mean simple sugar or, refined sugar, so to speak. All sugars in general, because they do, cause a spike in your insulin and do have inflammatory response. And so often, unclear thinking is due to an inflammatory response in the in the body as well, and in the brain. So that's really critical, stopping taking in everything artificial and all the processed foods, because that's all going to weaken the immune system. And then as we see these interesting clouds spread with who knows what else is up there, and it seeps on down, wafts in, you inhale it in, ends up in your bloodstream. And, if you already have the inflammatory response going on, then other things could get a hold of you as well.
That's right. They have these things down to a science. So I think we need to be detoxing a little bit every single day, because just by the mere act of existing, you're pulling in a lot of toxins through no fault of your own.
We talked to another person that we were helping today, and that person is from the USA, I think, from Oregon, I think is what she said. But she spent her first full year abroad and is down in South America and is not coming back. And I thought that was a wise move. Personally, because I do think that the toughest times ahead really are going to be for the U.S. and the EU, the NATO countries. The next 4 years are going to be very, very difficult for all of us that are in the U.S. and the EU. So, she had said that other than, people conforming and wearing a facial covering, everything else seems pretty normal.
Yeah, she said everything else seemed pretty normal. So, even though I do believe that things are going to ramp up globally because it is a global plan, the U.S. is probably going to have a bit more of a difficult time.
And then we were talking about another family member that's in Costa Rica. And last time I checked in with them, I check in with them like once every month or two, see how they're doing. They said the same thing, just a few little restrictions, but nothing serious, and life is pretty much normal. However, it does seem like there is economic pressure being put on CR, Costa Rica, because again, anytime there's a little oasis out there, it must conform. It's that conformity that rules this world.
It is, and this is where we have to find our own little piece of heaven, and we might have to find it within ourselves, because everywhere we look externally, and remember, that's what they taught us since childhood, is to look externally for everything that you need. Well, that very teaching is what's driving people crazy right now, because they're doing what they were taught, looking external for what they need, but there's so much chaos that they can't find any peace. And that's why what Mike and I try to teach is really that peace is to go within.
And when we were talking about Costa Rica with a previous person today, this whole idea, a lot of people are thinking about expatting. A lot of people are thinking about moving to a different state as well. You got an image, and do you want to share?
Well, yeah, I did. I just got an image, and it won't be too far away, of a camouflage jeep with red. They look like long red chevrons, one stacked on top of the other.
So you saw that when we were talking about Costa
Uh-huh.
Rica, but you picking up more of a military convoy going
Uh-huh.
through.
Yeah.
And I had seen that before too. Not necessarily Costa Rica. I had seen a military convoy that I felt was led by Chinese and Russian forces, heading through a jungle area, and I felt like it was coming towards the U.S. border. And that was, I want to say, a year ago that came to me. But we are getting close. We are getting very, very close. Last night we got a lot of info as well, such as this whole scenario. Remember we were talking about movies? Remember movies? We were talking about movies. There was a movie that Patrick Swayze did with Charlie Sheen, Emilio Estevez, and it was redone again by the guy that plays Thor. And it has to do with a color, and it used to be my favorite color, red. When I was like 5 years old, red was my favorite color. And, time of day that my dad enjoyed the most was the dawn, if you guys know what I mean. Well, what we got was that scenario. What I got last night, basically, was that scenario is in the works. It just depends on how things go. Really, so much depends on how things go on Wednesday, which is, that particular day where there'll be interesting events in the Capitol. And Cindy also had multiple visions of that day, looking more like the 4th of July on the ground, if you know what I mean. So again, it's definitely a case of being prepared. Tomorrow we're going to go out and do a big stock up, even though we're probably good for quite a while. But at the same time, if you think about it, if you couldn't go to the store for 6 months, and it might only be 2 weeks, there's messages out there circulating about 2 weeks. But again, the government said 6 months a couple of years ago. So think about it. If you had to get by with what you have right now, how easy or how hard would it be right now for anywhere from 2 weeks to 6 months?
Yeah, it's just something that we're all going to have to assess and reassess so that we're in a good physical position and mental position, because it's kind of like a two-man game. You got to have one and the other to get through this.
So yeah, tomorrow we will be heading out and doing a restock with kind of that long-term thought in head, and at the same time, the guides have told us to be within a striking distance of a border, and so that would take a big deal to pack everything up and then head to the border at the same time. So that's one of those things. It'd be a case of, okay, what do you leave behind if you had to make a quick run like that, just to speak. And I've always felt that the wall was going to end up being more about keeping us in than letting others come in. That's always been my feeling the whole time, is that, a wall works both ways. You can't get in, you can't get out.
That's right. It's works both ways, and I know a lot of people are happy about the wall and hopeful about the wall, but I've always had my own suspicions too.
The one thing I'll say about that too is, in a golden age, there won't be any walls. There won't be any walls because the consciousness will be raised to a point where we will no longer think in that manner. We'll see the oneness of all things, and we won't look at our neighbors and, say, we don't want you over here. So that will all change as we move into a higher age. And of course, the golden age, if we look at the calendar, it's still thousands of years away. But again, we're heading out the dark age and going into a bronze age. So things are step by step. We might want heaven on earth right away. It's going to take a lot of time and a lot of work. We have to be prepared for that. But at the same time, keep our spirits up and keep our enthusiasm up, so that we will keep moving forward in that respect.
And sometimes when we're going through change, things might look a little bit worse before they get better.
Yes, that's exactly the case. Always darkest before the dawn. So we wanted to share that with you guys. Let me think real quick. Was there anything else major that we wanted to share with you? Talking about the wall again, there have been those that say, and it could be the case, that a certain individual, perhaps number one, understands the whole bigger plan and understands that there will be what I saw coming through the jungle towards the border, and that's also going to help with that. So that could very well be. Of course, one drone, one blast from any, T-72 or anything more advanced than that, and of course that wall is just obliterated. So that wouldn't take much time at all to get rid of.
No, it sure wouldn't.
No. So as always, guys, thanks for being part of the family. Make sure you are subscribed and have the bell clicked. And just so you guys know, Sassy is with us. In case anybody is saying, "Where's Sassy?" She's there. She's there. She's hiding behind my back is what she was doing. So, God bless and namaste.
Namaste.